Okay, well, welcome everybody. This is the third online, and wow, I'm impressed. This is the most I've ever had attend the third week, so it's cool. I like that you guys are joining in. Um, Hopefully, this is beneficial to you in one way or another. They are, hopefully, they are optional. They're not required to be here. I do record them. If anybody shows up, if I'm the only one showing up, I'm not going to record it. I'll pull one from a previous semester and post that for you. Because even though I do talk to myself, if there's not somebody there to kind of direct it, we could be talking about things that are way off the subject. Where was I going? Oh, I don't know. So anyway, this is third week. I think I had, as of Sunday, I had all the homework graded that had been turned in. I know I'm a little behind. This has been a crazy week for me. So I will get everything graded up. Uh, I think the second assignment went fairly well. Um, I get the one that problem on that second assignment that a lot of people struggle with. And one semester, I made notes, and I literally it took me about 20 minutes to get the student to understand what's going on. Oh, excuse me, and that's the very first problem, taking the cube root of -5. And they says, well, I got -5 raised to the 1/3 power. So um, that gives me the cube root. And I says, yes, but no, because basically what you have written there is not -5, but you have written -1 times 5 raised to the 1/3 power. So you're basically taking the cube root of 5 and making it negative because it's going to do the caret first. Well, it'll do inside the parentheses and then the caret and then the multiplication. So it becomes a totally different um, answer when you put the -5 inside of parentheses, because now you're taking the cube root of a negative number, because it does everything inside of the parentheses first, and then it does the powers, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. So if you missed that one and you're confused, I did put notes in there. Hopefully, just because I understand the notes doesn't mean everybody else does. Um, and that goes for any other notes I put in your homework. If you have questions, by all means, let me know. I'm more than happy to explain what I've written. It's just, to be honest with you, I have Word documents that have all these notes already typed in them. I just copy and paste them into your homework and post them back up. Okay, you didn't hear that from me. I'm just being lazy. Um, and then I guess the other problem on that one that students dealt with is on problem 316 and 321. 316, I really didn't um, take any points off if you didn't do it that way, because there's more than one way. It doesn't say, to find the angle at which is the maximum. It says just to prove that 45 degrees was the maximum height. And you can do that in many different ways. But on problem 321, it wants to know the time of the maximum and minimum of your random temperatures. Now, we covered that last week in that online session, which is recorded. So if you're still confused on that, I think it was towards the end of that session last week. Or if you want to get with me afterwards, I'd be more than happy to go over it again. So that's the grading scene for the last assignment. There also seems to be some confusion as to where the solutions to the practice exercises are. You are required to turn in the practice exercises. They're only worth 10 points because you do have access to the solutions. And that's if you come to your Canvas homepage, scroll down a little bit to homework assignments, click that link, and then this right here, that is a link that will download a zipped folder of all the solutions to the practice exercises. And if you don't want to use that one, there's one down here to do the same thing. Now this works in a PC. Mac, I'm assuming, work the same way. But this is all of the solutions to all of the practice exercises. One more thing that was an issue with the homework assignment this week that was turned in, and that was downloading data files off of the web. We're going to be getting a lot of data files here. So if you just click on this, it'll open it up. Well, sometimes it'll open it up like this. Other times it will open it up. Okay, that one's not doing. I'm not going to get one that's going to do it the way I want it to. ACE data. There we go. Sometimes it'll open up into a page like this. If it opens up into this page, right here is a link to download. And that downloaded the file. Now on these other ones, on a PC, if you right mouse click and do save link as, and then you can save it in your current directory wherever you're doing your work. And for this class, I have an online, and I've already got one there. So and that will save it as a .dat file. So that is the way to get these off of. And if you're still having problems, send me a message inside of Canvas. I can zip these into a zip file, and I may just do that anyway. And then, because if the zip file will download a lot easier than these .dat files. It's something in Canvas. Never had any problems with it in Blackboard or anything else we were doing. It's when we came to Canvas that we started having problems with downloading data files. So any questions on that? Everybody's okay? I'm not sure if my thingy here updates or not.
Can you show us on that Wikipedia link? I couldn't figure out which one to use after. I just copied and pasted the numbers. Is that right?
On which one? On this one?
The 4.5 one. It says use an updated data.
Oh,
right there above you.
This one? Okay, yeah, these ones, I don't know why she put those in, because I've never had any success myself. You know, it's like the problem 325 going into the national, I forget what it was, but that website, I mean, I spent literally half an hour the one night to get to the one link that I did find that I sent to you guys, which was this one. And we still had problems with that. So I uploaded. So yeah, okay. So here's their data here. Where is this the data they want? I think this is the one. Yeah. Oh, good grief. Yeah. Where did you go? Oh, there it is. That's not the one I want. Here we go. New text document. And then right. That's one way of getting it. I just did a copy and paste into a new text document. But this stuff here is going to give you a little bit of heartburn. Yeah. If anybody had problems with that, send me a note. I'll make sure that I don't penalize you for it. Yeah, copying and pasting into MATLAB is okay. Oops, let's get it into an M file, not a script file.
All the questions that had those documents, like they said that you can just enter them. So I just thought that you won't penalize us for
Yeah,
that.
I don't penalize for just copying and pasting in, but I think it's really important that you learn how to import, to load data files into MATLAB. Let me see if I can find it real quick. I think here in data files, defects. I put this one on a test once, and that is a lot of data file to be posting into your. And I tell you, I regretted it afterwards because there were a few students who did not know how to load the data file, and I had to scroll through. Do a control, you stupid idiot. Hey, don't call me that. It hurts my feelings. See, that's a lot of scrolling through. But unless it specifically states load the data file into MATLAB, I won't penalize you for copying and pasting it into the file.
Professor, I have a question.
Excuse me?
I have a question.
Okay, sure. I got one answer. Use it wisely.
Yes. So when in some of the problems, like we have to load some data, and then when we upload our M file into Canvas, are you gonna be able to like run our coding?
Yes. If you use the same name as in the textbook for the data file, for example, come in here. If it said, I don't know, where's one here we use thermal scores. So if you use thermal scores in your coding, yes, I will be able to load that problem without any issues whatsoever. But if you change that to say something like my thermal scores or anything like that, any variation on the name, then I won't have that file with me. You have two options. One, you can either anger the grader or you can include the data file with your submission. If that makes any sense.
Yes, it does.
Okay. So it just so happens one of the topics that I have scheduled to discuss tonight is loading data files and saving data files. There's a couple of questions that came up over the last week on saving files. So I will cover that tonight. So loading data files, if you're loading in a .text, like this hot tub.text or a .dat, you can simply do that by putting load followed by the file name hot tub with the extension, and that's it. That will now load that data file into its memory and assign it to a variable called hot tub. Okay, we can see that by doing, we'll clear out the memory here. And if we execute this file, we now have a variable named hot tub that has 25 rows and 2 columns. And we can see that by just doing, if we spell it correctly, hot tub, and that shows you the data files of what's in there. So this is, I'm guessing, a time column and the temperature. Okay, so now let's say we want to deal with the temperature that's in that data file and not the time. So we will say that data, okay, or that's not a command, it's just a variable name. We'll say my data is equal to, and then we're going to have it go to the hot tub variable, and we want to tell it to take all of the rows from column 2. So now when we run this, my data is going to be 100, 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106, and so that just pulled this column out and assigned that all that data in that column to a new variable. So now you can manipulate this data without affecting the time. Okay, again, that works for in our class. That works for only one A. Not dad. Not tub. Not, it's not my tub. Must be yours. And let's do time is equal to hot tub. All the rows in column 1. But you got get off that end, man. There we go. So see, it works with .dat and .text, either with both of them. So now we do have an assignment coming up where you'll be loading in a that's Excel. Yeah, that'd be an Excel file. Okay, thanks. You'll be loading in an Excel file into memory. I do have a couple of them in here. We'll try the ACE one because it's a lot less typing. This one you can assign to a variable as you load it, as long as you use proper naming sequence. And then this uses the XLS read, followed by the name of the file in single quotation marks, XLS, XLSX. And now that will read in this data file into a variable, which if it's matrix, it'll be in matrix form. There it is, ACE data. So it is a matrix of 61 rows with 5 columns. Now there is another way. This is, I like this because every time you run the code, it's there. It'll load the data file. You don't have to do anything else other than run your data file, your code. You can, however, come back here, and if you double click on this file, it takes a minute, but it will. Maybe it will. It's supposed to. Don't lie to me. There it is. It opens up this import dialog box. And in here, you can do several things. You can import it in as a table, or you can come down here and select column vectors, where it will now, instead of one matrix, will download 5 column vectors. And then just hit select, do the import. And if we go look in our workspace, we now have 5 columns instead of one matrix. Okay, but the problem with that is every time you run that source now, you'll have to come in and manually do that, whereas this will automatically do it every time. Okay, any questions, comments? Copy and paste answers easier to import the file, and if so, how? So did I answer your question there, Carlos? Okay. So one other thing that you'll be coming up, if you know, send me a question there in the chat window if I didn't answer your question, and I'll readdress it.
Yeah, so I was just having trouble with the ACE data saving that link to my
Oh.
MATLAB folder to upload it to or import it into my MATLAB.
Okay, so then this helped. No?
No.
Okay, so another thing that I was going to cover here was save. Let's save this time variable into here. Do I have one here called time yet? No, I don't. So when you're saving variables, type in save, and then you want to type in the file name that you want it to create, and we'll just do a time.dat. And then if you don't specify which variable to save, it will save all of the variables that are in your workspace. And I don't want all that. I just want it to save the time. So I will tell it time. And then you have to give it an ASCII2 format. Otherwise, MATLAB won't be able to reload the file. And we can prove that by doing a clear and then a load time dots on the other side of the keyboard. Stupid. I know that. Quit hurting my feelings. And let's make a break here. We'll clear everybody out. We'll load it. Boom. And see now that's all we have is the time, which is kind of silly to do that because we could create that a lot easier by just saying, time equals 0 to 24. But that's not what we're after. We're here to show the procedure of saving data files so that you can reload them at another time. And I don't remember if I covered that last week or not, so I've covered it here. Okay, so the one other thing that you're going to be coming across that students struggle with a lot is mesh grid. What is mesh grid? Mesh grid is a really powerful tool. Wish I knew about it when I was doing my finite element analysis course, but I didn't. So what mesh grid does is it takes two vectors, or it does work with matrices too, but we don't get that complex in this course. We just deal with vectors. But it takes two vectors of different size, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it will create two matrices of the same size. So if we go 6, 7, 8, 9, so, and that way, if we're trying to multiply one A and B together right now, you can't do it. You can't do it in matrix multiplication. You can't do it with an element operator because it's just dimensionally unfit for either operation. So what meshgrid does is it creates two new variables from the old ones. You can either, you have several options here. You can use the same variable names, which will overwrite the existing ones into new ones, or you can choose new variable names and maintain the original inputs. Either way is good. So meshgrid is the command, and it takes the two variable as inputs. And so you'll notice here now what it's going to do is it will create two new vectors, or two new matrices that are going to be 5 by 4. Let's go ahead and show these. So we have A is four rows of the of A. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and B is 5 columns of B. So now they're the same size. So if we want to multiply them together, A dot times B, it'll work. What? Oh, see, there you go. I create, and that's something other students do too. They'll create new variables and use the old ones, and it don't work. That's because you're stupid. I am not. Quit saying that. So this is the product of this times that. So that's what meshgrid does. So I see a lot of students will just do meshgrid A and B. Well, without assigning it to something, it doesn't do much good. So you need to assign it to new variables. And I say you can overwrite these. A dot times B, and you'll notice here that we have 5 by 4, and if you want to reverse that so that you have 5 rows and 4 columns, you just reverse the way they're input into the matrix. A, and we'll comment this one out. And so, no, oh, you can't do this before you do the mesh grid, stupid. I know that. There you go. So now we have 4 columns with 5 rows instead of 5 rows with 4 columns. This is very important to remember because there's one problem coming up that you do some plotting from the results from mesh grid, and if you don't have them in the right order, the plot don't come out right. It's a cool looking plot, but it's not right. And you make it right by either changing the order in mesh grid or transposing the answers that you get out of mesh grid. I'm tired. Anybody else tired? Any questions? Anything you'd like for me to work on? Yeah, work on getting a new personality. Okay, I've been trying for years. Okay. Is anybody having issues with the online MATLAB? Nope, everybody's doing good. Hunky and or Dory.